cue Fox.
I think what we have here is one of the biggest scandals in American history, where we're seeing, our justice system being used to really change the outcome of an election.
That's from Fox and Friends just today. Now let's cue Trump aide Kellyanne Conway last night.
The fix was in against Donald Trump from the beginning, and they were pro-Hillary.
This is the feedback loop in action. I want you to see it over and over again. Fox, Trump, his aides, GOP lawmakers, all of them, they're taking a legitimate issue, which is the discovery of a Mueller team member who expressed his hatred of Trump in text messages, and then they're blowing it up, trying to discredit the entire probe. Now remember, that team member was removed from the probe when the text messages were found. But every day it's something new, some new reason to claim the special counsel is illegitimate. So as you watch the coverage, try to notice how this works. Notice how right-wing commentators and GOP lawmakers are echoing each other. And pay close attention to the banners on the bottom of Fox's screen. Last night, I can't believe this. Fox is asking if the FBI is engaged in a coup. This morning, the banner said the investigators are in the hot seat. This isn't just an alternate reality. This is a reversal of reality. Obviously, it's Trump world that is on the hot seat. 4 Trump associates have been charged with crimes. 2 of the 4 have pled guilty. Mueller is investigating a massive fire, and everyone can see and smell the smoke. But this, instead, is what the president's hearing.
The only thing that remains is whether we have the fortitude to not just fire these people immediately, but to take them out in cuffs.
That is Jeanine Pirro, one of Trump's informal advisors, not just calling for firings, but arrests. Look, I don't say this lightly, but these FOTs, these friends of Trump, they're talking like propagandists. This sounds like propaganda, and it sounds dangerous. Pirro's demanding a cleansing of the FBI. Sean Hannity's calling Mueller the head of the snake. Other Fox hosts are calling the FBI corrupt and out of control. Rush Limbaugh is describing it as a coup. And guests on these programs are comparing the FBI to the KGB. The conservative media choir is telling Trump that Mueller is out to get you, trying to reverse the outcome of the election. It doesn't get any more dangerous than that. Joining me now to talk about this, Kurt Bardella. He's a former spokesman for Breitbart, now the president of Endeavor Strategies. Hadass Gold, a CNN reporter who covers politics, media, and business. And David Folkenflik is the media correspondent for NPR. Kurt, what is going on here?
Well, I think you're seeing exactly that. Fox News has basically become de facto state-run propaganda. It's state-controlled, state-run television that is beginning its cues directly from the White House. I don't know how anyone can look at what's going on right now and not reach that determination. Trump is creating his own reality. But when you say that, it's not as if the White House is literally running Fox. Or are you saying they are? Well, if you look at the coverage, it sure seems like they are. They have gone so far extreme. I remember the days, Brian, when what you saw on pages like Breitbart were considered the fringe. It was considered so far beyond the mainstream, not even Fox News would touch what was on those pages. Now, Fox is going almost further than Breitbart. And you have right now, at this second, there's an ad running in different markets with Fox News contributor Tomi Lahren advocating and attacking the Mueller investigation.
So, David Folkenflik, do we call this collusion?
I think you've seen an almost total erosion between what you're hearing from Trump administration officials desperately spinning and trying to defend the president, Trump surrogates who appear on cable channels all the time, and the Fox News talent, the hosts, the commentators, the people being paid by Rupert Murdoch and by 21st Century Fox at Fox News. They're offering the same message, and the message is don't look at or think about what may be under investigation. Let's find whatever we can to undermine the pillars of the respect that we tend to confer upon institutions like the FBI and the Justice Department.
You and I have covered Fox News for years. Is it appropriate to call the channel a news channel?
It's such a good question. I think that
Shepard Smith is a journalist. He works for Fox.
Here's what I would say.
Bear is a journalist.
Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say, and I think it's only more true now in the Trump era. I would say that there are journalists, there are reporters, there are producers, there are people who care about the news who work at Fox News. Fox News is not about news. Fox News is about Fox. Fox News is about getting a tonal point of view, making sure viewers get what they think viewers need to get. whether or not that involves much of the time at facts. And you see it, you know it's true because it's true at the most highly rated times of day. It's true for who's being paid, who's being promoted, why are they being promoted. You see anchors who are slipping into some of those Fox and Friend hosts guest slots, and they start to take a sharper tone. They start to take a more kind of incredulous look on their faces. They are pushing out the same message of incredulity about prosecutors, investigators doing their job, trying to look at some very serious issues being raised about the people who are around this president.
So rather than just talk about what Fox is saying, let's watch some more of it. Hadass, watch this clip with me, and then on the other end, talk to me about how the Sean Hannitys of the world communicate with the president. First, this montage.
The FBI is out of control. There are clear, abusive biases at the DOJ and the FBI and Robert Mueller's team.
Pieces of information here that may seem small, but they add up to a pattern of bias.
Unethical political crusaders.
There are more emails coming out to show the bias here.
Mueller's hand-picked minions are a bunch of Trump-hating, Hillary-loving, partisan hacks.
People who hate the president, who have a bias against him investigating him.
There is inherent bias in the investigation.
Is one giant cesspool. It's full of corruption, partisanship.
We have a coup on our hands in America.
And you can understand where the president can get frustrated.
You can understand why the president gets frustrated if that's what he's hearing every hour of every day. Hadass, what do we know about what President Trump is hearing privately from these hosts? We know what they say on the air. What's going on off the air?
Well, we know that the president loves watching television, and he watches a lot of it every day, and especially Fox. I mean, he watches all media, and he definitely engages in all media, but especially Fox and Friends. It's now become this common trope where we see him tweet something, and then we go back on Fox to see what was said, where he got the inspiration from. But in terms of how he talks to the host, we know for a fact that he talks to quite a few of them. He talks to, first of all, Rupert Murdoch, the head of Fox, on a regular basis. He talks to Sean Hannity. He consults with them sometimes to get an idea on how things are playing out amongst his base and how he should approach things. And we also know, and we have seen, quite a few Fox people who either have ended up in the administration, like Heather Nauert, who is now the State Department spokesperson, or people they have had long discussions with about possibly joining the administration, like Kimberly Guilfoyle or former Fox host Eric Bolling.
So I forgot about that about Guilfoyle. Yeah.
There's a clear synergy there, and we catch them at the White House going to dinners, just being there for interviews. I mean, it's sort of just become a normal thing to know that the president is talking to these news hosts all of the time, or having them at the White House, where it used to be a big story. We used to have we make a big deal about it if the president was having a one-on-one dinner or talking to a news host all of the time, or maybe more of an opinion host would be a more proper description of it. And now it's just sort of par for the course. Oh, he talked to Hannity again last night.
Yeah.
It's not just a question of the commonality of outlook or some sort of shared thinking in some generalized way. We're talking about a concentrated message. You know, it's the words being used time and again.
Right.
And sometimes the message seems to be coming from around the White House, but I think often as not, you're seeing these Fox hosts push forward messages they want the White House to hold on to grab hold of and to ride. And you're seeing it's not just a synergy, it's just this constant current floating all in the same direction. There are no admission of facts against interest on these shows that you're talking about, and that I think is why it's not news.
On Tuesday night, for example, actually really Wednesday, Fox moved on very quickly from Roy Moore's loss in Alabama. So quickly, Kurt, since you worked for Breitbart, what was your take on the election result? Was Breitbart and Steve Bannon, were they the second biggest losers of the election?
Oh, I mean, after Roy Moore, absolutely they were. And maybe they were even bigger losers than Roy Moore ultimately, because there was such a clamoring from Republicans to say we need to create distance from Steve Bannon. This is the moment where he needs to step off the stage. What they don't understand is he's not going anywhere. And frankly, it's because of programming on Fox that gives Steve power, that gives him that. He's part of that loop with Trump and with Fox. And as long as that's the case, as long as Trump takes his cues from that type of programming and content, he's going to need them. And particularly as the Mueller investigation, intensifies, and it looks like what they're doing is laying the groundwork to rationalize firing Mueller and ending the investigation.
Kurt, thanks for being here. Hadass, David, please stick around. I got to say one thing before we go to break. Look, the American people, me, you, all of us watching, we deserve to know exactly how Russia interfered in the election last year. That's what Mueller is probing. We and all the American people deserve to know if the Russians had any help. We need to know if the Trump campaign knew about the Russian attack. We need to know if the President of the United States is somehow compromised by a foreign government. And we need to know if he obstructed justice. That's what Mueller is probing. We, you at home, we deserve the answers. And I think all the time we spend thinking about Fox's attacks, it's important, but it distracts from those key questions. Who knew what when? And what are we going to do to make sure it never happens again? Robert Mueller is investigating Russia's attack on the American election. But now he is under attack. And this new assault is not coming from Moscow. It's coming from Fox News headquarters right here in New York. And it's coming from the White House. It's an anti-Mueller, anti-FBI feedback loop, claiming that Mueller's probe is hopelessly biased and downright corrupt. Let's cue Fox.
I think what we have here is one of the biggest scandals in American history, where we're seeing, our justice system being used to really change the outcome of an election.
That's from Fox and Friends just today. Now let's cue Trump aide Kellyanne Conway last night.
The fix was in against Donald Trump from the beginning, and they were pro-Hillary.
This is the feedback loop in action. I want you to see it over and over again. Fox, Trump, his aides, GOP lawmakers, all of them, they're taking a legitimate issue, which is the discovery of a Mueller team member who expressed his hatred of Trump in text messages, and then they're blowing it up, trying to discredit the entire probe. Now remember, that team member was removed from the probe when the text messages were found. But every day it's something new, some new reason to claim the special counsel is illegitimate. So as you watch the coverage, try to notice how this works. Notice how right-wing commentators and GOP lawmakers are echoing each other. And pay close attention to the banners on the bottom of Fox's screen.